Stephen Perrott is just 17 years old and already tips the scales at 28 stone. Despite knowing that his life is at risk, he just can't control his addiction to food.
When I eat, it comforts me because it makes me happy. I never feel bad due to eating a lot of food. If anything, I get a high off of it.
And Rebecca Tedder, not yet 16, but already a serial dieter.
I have tried every diet and exercise DVDs and certain foods, and every time I've lost something, it's all gone straight back on and some more, and it's very sad for a young girl to be yo-yoing like that, really.
Expect graphic scenes of gastric bypass surgery on Fat Doctor. Britain now has one of the highest rates of obesity in the world. Over a quarter of the adult population is dangerously overweight, and those bad eating habits have been passed on to a younger generation. British teenagers are now among the fattest in Europe. The number of overweight and obese children in the UK has tripled in the past 20 years. And experts warn that teenage obesity carries the same risk of premature death as smoking 10 cigarettes a day.
Dave, eat your dinner. I definitely know that, I've got to try and nip it in the bud now before it gets too late with him. Otherwise it'd be like history repeating itself, and I don't want that.
What's next?
Coleslaw.
My son was bullied at school for his size. My youngest daughter, she's big boned too. But it does worry me because I don't want them to be like me. It's the most horrible thing in the world, being big.
Surgeons Shaw Summers and Guy Slater run one of the largest bariatric surgery units in the UK. They help the morbidly obese lose weight by shrinking their stomachs to the size of an egg. Shaw and Guy are seeing an increasing number of younger patients. They believe a lack of education about food lies at the root of the current obesity epidemic.
We've almost got a lost generation of young adults and children now who really have to be taught from scratch. And I think unless we get to the children and teach them about foods and engage with their parents to let them learn the lessons, we're always going to have this kind of problem.
The government needs to address what's going on at primary school level and sort out eating behaviour at that level. But it's very difficult because parental input is so important and often seems to be lacking.
Look, a lot of parents just don't recognise that their child is significantly overweight because they just can't see it. You almost have to staple the parents' brains to sort of say, look, you're at the heart of changing this too, and unless you change things, we might treat your child, but that's not going to get to the root of the problem.
More and more people are turning to surgery in a desperate effort to lose weight. Last year alone, the number of NHS operations rose by 40%. This surgery can be life-saving, but it can also be high risk.
At the very root of what we do, we take a perfectly normal digestive system and mess about with it. And it'd be very nice not to have to do that. The only reason we do it is because it works and nothing else does. But if someone could come up with a tablet that did exactly what we achieved by surgery, then I'd quite happily put my knife down and spend more time at home.
Here are some of the men and women for whom weight loss surgery has worked. They are Shaw and Guy's former patients at their annual reunion.
I've lost 100 pounds, which is 7 stone 2. I feel so unbelievably happy. I can't put words on it. My best friend's getting married in 25 weeks. I'm her bridesmaid, so it's the best. Before the operation, I wasn't thinking about going to the wedding because it's in Cuba and it's on the beach, but now there's going to be no stopping me, so fantastic.
I've gone from 35 stone to 20 stone, and it's brilliant. Being able to just walk around without people staring at me so much is really nice, kind of going back into normal society. And I just feel so much more healthier, happier, and it's just brilliant.
The best thing since my op has been just the complete change. That was the old me, this is the new me. I don't have to be called a silly fat cow anymore by people that pass by. I'm not being stared at if I go out and eat somewhere or anything anymore, and it's just absolutely amazing.
It's results like these that 17-year-old Stephen Perrott is desperate to achieve. Coming up, we find out why he's prepared to go under the knife to lose weight.
I find it hard with people picking on me and that. People say who ate all the pies and fatty and call me a lot of names.
And at only 16 years old, why does Rebecca Tedder want weight loss surgery?
I just think that the weight will keep gradually going up as I get older and just get worse and worse. And then maybe when I'm 30, I could be 30 stone for all I know.
Stephen Perrott is just 17 years old and already weighs a shocking 28 stone. He's one of a growing number of obese teenagers in the UK whose weight is life-threatening. You're considered obese if you have a body mass index over 30. At 5 foot 10 inches tall and with a BMI of 55, Stephen is supermorbidly obese. It's late morning, and Stephen is enjoying a lie-in after finishing college for the summer holidays. Although Stephen's struggled with his weight since childhood, it's only in recent years that his obesity has spiraled out of control.
Always been overweight. When I was 9, I was 9 stone. And then from 10 to 17 years old, I've gained about 18 stone. I find it hard with people picking on me and that. People say who ate all the pies and fatty and call me a lot of names and everything.
As Stephen's weight has piled on, even the simplest tasks require enormous effort.
I'm finding it harder to wash. Get backache occasionally. Also get pains in the back of my knees. And occasionally my ankles play up as well. The thing I hate most about my body is actually the top of my legs, because it pushes my feet over and I end up walking on the side of my feet. I'm wearing shoes down, I'm going through shoes. You can go through a pair of shoes in 6 weeks due to my weight. I'd like to lose weight from my stomach the most, because it would make it easier for me to get hold of clothes.
Once dressed, it's time for Stephen's first meal of the day. Stephen admits he's addicted to food and has no control over what he eats. His breakfast consists of 4 sausages, a whole can of baked beans, 5 rashers of bacon, 3 eggs, mushrooms, and 4 slices of toast.
I like breakfast quite a bit. I have full English most days. It's just the first meal of the day and I'm extremely hungry in the mornings. When I eat, it comforts me because it makes me happy. I never feel bad due to eating a lot of food. If anything, I get a high off of it.
Often, Stephen eats so much food so quickly, he finds it hard to digest.
Things do get stuck, but if I pat or rub or thump the top of my stomach, it clears, and I just carry on eating.
Stephen lives at home with his dad, David. Weighing 26 stone himself, David is only too aware of the daily struggle his son faces.
I hate being overweight. It's very tiring and depressing, and you get a lot of comments from other people. I've always taken antidepressants that make me feel better about myself and ease the need to comfort eat.
When David returns home from his morning shift as a bus driver, he often finds Stephen sleeping off the effects of his breakfast.
I feel powerless to do anything about Stephen as his weight's piling on. Severely life-threatening now, so what's it going to be like when he's my age? I'm very concerned.
18 months ago, David became so depressed about his own weight, he decided to take decisive action. He had a gastric band fitted.
At my heaviest, I was 36 stone, and found that I was constantly looking for food and planning the next meal all the time. And it got to the point where it was getting very difficult to even buy clothes to fit me. And I used to have problems going to the toilet or finding toilets that were big enough and various other things. I find it very difficult to put my own shoes and socks on. The shortest little walk, I used to get extremely short of breath. And it got to the point where it was getting very difficult for me to even get in and out of vehicles. And as a professional driver, you can imagine the problems that caused.
David managed to lose 6 stone through strict dieting, but found it impossible to lose more. Since he's had the band, he's lost another 4 stone.
I feel I eat a lot more healthier now than I have ever before. You know, it takes me a lot longer to eat a meal because it's all got to be chewed, and it's not helpful to rush around and eat with the band and that because it gets blocked up and you end up regretting it. My weight loss has already made a large difference to my body, as you can see, with all the loose flesh, which I've also got similar of on my stomach, which I'm hoping to get removed at some stage. Occasionally you hear it flopping against the side of you, but nobody else notices it. I don't take any notice of it. It's if you end up jumping around or doing anything, you hear a funny noise sometimes, but I try to ignore it.
Stephen!
David can't help but feel partly responsible for Stephen's obesity.
I'm off to work again. Maybe I've taught him the wrong way with food, but, you know, we can't all be perfect.
See you later.
Bye.
Some of the time I feel guilty, but you can only do your best. What he does when he's not with me is totally up to him, and I can't be with him 24/7, so...
Not long after his cooked breakfast, Stephen's hungry again and is off to the local garage to buy snacks. He believes his addiction to food began when his mother left home 5 years ago. Since then, he's put on 16 stone.
I started to comfort eat a lot. Admittedly, I was eating quite a bit before she left, but it gradually got more and more. When my mum left home, I was extremely low. I actually ended up on Prozac, but they had to take me off of it after so long due to my age at the time. Part of my current problem is that I never feel full, hence why I keep snacking during the day, and I keep gaining weight.
There's more pressure on teenagers to be slim than ever before. Surgeon Shaw Summers blames media fascination with celebrity and body image for this growing problem.
I think we've lost sight of what is acceptable in terms of body form, and we've focused on the stick-thin celebrity culture, which is not normal. Normal people have a bit of fluff around them. Whilst morbid obesity is an illness, obsession with the size 10 and below culture is similarly abnormal.
In Croydon, it's a big day for teenager Rebecca Tedder. She's celebrating her 16th birthday, and more importantly, the fact that she's finally old enough to have weight loss surgery.
Happy birthday.
I'm so happy that I'm 16 because that means that I can have the gastric band that I've been waiting for like at least 2 years, maybe longer. I've tried every diet and exercise DVDs and certain foods, and every time I've lost something, it's all gone straight back on and some more, and it's very sad for a young girl like of the ages 12, 13, 14 to be like yo-yoing like that, really.
Rebecca currently weighs 16 stone and is a dress size 22. At 5'3" and with a body mass index of 37, Rebecca is scared that unless she tackles her weight soon, her obesity will spiral out of control.
I just think that the weight will keep gradually going up as I get older and just get worse and worse. And then maybe when I'm 30, I could be 30 stone for all I know. I think being slim would make me feel normal and more accepted by people. I'm not really that happy with the way I am at the moment, which is why I want to do something about it.
Rebecca doesn't qualify for surgery on the NHS because she is not considered heavy enough, so her parents are currently saving up the £7,000 she'll need for a gastric band operation. Rebecca's already had her first consultation with Shaw Summers, and he's agreed that a band fitted around her stomach would be the most suitable option for her.
Hopefully a band will help her understand and recognise the feelings of being tight and full so that she can just start to eat less. It's made of silicone plastic, and as you can see, it's basically a rubber ring with a balloon in the middle, and it's attached via a thin tube to a little button that we can put an injection into in order to inflate the balloon. Band patients still feel like eating. they just get the feeling they don't want to eat too much because it takes longer for it to go down. So in that regard, it's a very different operation. It's an operation that people have to work with because it just simply slows their ability to eat. Generally speaking, younger people who just eat too much volume of food do quite well with a band because they will increase their activity. They will learn to work with it once they get the rewards of good weight loss.
Apart from her family, her best friend Daisy is the only person Rebecca has confided in about her plans.
I think there is quite a pressure on teenage girls because basically, like, you've got all the new clothes in the shops, and when you go to like try them on,
sizes and stuff.
yeah, and you've got all like these shops that are like, you know, 2 sizes smaller than they actually should be.
If a boy could choose between a skinny girl and a bigger girl, I definitely think that the boy would probably go for the skinnier girl over the other one.
And vice versa, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
you know, you say, oh, who do you like?
Yeah.
And if you think he likes like a bigger person, it's like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
he's big.
They'd
Why do
say
you want to go out with
something
him?
like, yeah, why would you want to do that?
Rebecca and Daisy have been close friends since school, when they were both bigger than other girls in their class.
I've known Rebecca since like year 7, and even in PE, she was always weary, wasn't you? And it was always a problem. I think she came to me as well because it was like it's always been a problem for me as well. The ways that I knew Bex's weight bothered her. I mean, at school it was PE, always, you know, being the bigger one than other girls. Running, especially when
Around the track.
meters,
Up
yeah,
a lot.
1,500 meters,
Always
and the top's always going up and down. You know, so you put it back down.
Yeah, always just like,
Yeah, and the belly, like putting your belly down, your top down.
we must be like really big things.
Yeah, I know.
Ready? Go.
Daisy understands the pressure to be thin.
My weight's always bothered me, really. I've lost about 3 stone. I've been doing a diet, so I eat is bars, and all I drink for meals is shakes. It's quite hard, but I've lost 3 stone from it, so it must be working. But Rebecca's tried every way, and there's no other way, so she's happy having a band, and I'm happy for her.
Back in Salisbury, 17-year-old Stephen Perrott is having a driving lesson with his dad, David.
You up there from the tummy?
Yeah.
The wheel goes round all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. I've decided to buy Stephen a car and teach him to drive because one of the things we did was buy him a bike initially to try and help keep his weight down. But it's got to the point now at 28.5 stone where the bike spends more time in the shop being repaired than he does riding it. So we've had to look at something a little bit more substantial.
I said, you can't do getting any bigger. You won't fit behind the steering wheel, Stephen. No. Right to the left.
Occasionally it gets problematic trying to do manoeuvres in the car due to me weight.
Come on, brain. That was lucky. Take it slowly.
Stephen works part-time on the checkout in the local supermarket. It's a struggle dealing with the temptation of being around food.
When I'm at work and food goes through the checkout, it is hard occasionally, especially if it's something that I like. More often than not, if it's something I like and I've seen, I will then go and find it after work.
Back home, David prepares their evening meal. Although he's desperately concerned for Stephen's health, he does little to control his diet for him.
I don't bully Stephen about what he's eating and what he shouldn't eat because I've been through it and I know that sort of thing isn't helpful. It just depresses you even more and encourages you to comfort eat more.
Hi, Dad, I'm back. What's for tea? 5 chips. You got enough chips?
Yeah, plenty. I just constantly eat and eat. Even if I get asked to go on a diet, I'd go on it for 2 or 3 days and then end up going back to what I was eating before that.
At times it's like he's constantly eating and his mouth is never empty. Ideally, I'd like to jump up and take the food away from him, but at the end of the day, if he hasn't got the willpower, it's no good causing a row and a fight. I mean, we've only got each other.
Unable to control his addiction to food, Stephen wants obesity surgery to help him lose over 14 stone of excess fat. Tomorrow, he's going to see bariatric surgeon Shaw Summers at his obesity clinic. David's praying Shaw will be able to help his son. It's an anxious time for both father and son as they wait for their appointment.
Of Stephen Perrott, please.
From this consultation, Shaw will decide whether Stephen is suitable for surgery.
Hi, Stephen. Hi. How do you do? Hi. Come on in. Hello, Dave. As you know, I'm already quite acquainted with your dad, having operated on him a couple of years ago. His band. How long have you had trouble with your weight?
6 years ago. Weight gain because family split. I found I was eating for comfort a lot of the time.
Okay. What sorts of foods would you go for?
Cake, crisps, chocolate, sandwiches.
Do you ever leave anything?
No.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I actually eat what my dad leaves as well.
You clear up for him because of what he's had done.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, David, how you feel you're doing with your weight loss surgery?
Things have slowed down a bit, and I had actually hoped to lose quite a bit more than I have by now.
And do you feel that's because you're eating round what the band will do for you?
Yeah, and the fact that I've got Stephen bringing stuff into the house that I shouldn't be having.
We need to put one of those electric fences around the house, don't we?
Shaw believes Stephen lacks the willpower to make a band work successfully.
Do you drink any alcohol?
He recommends instead a full gastric bypass operation, but he wants to be certain Stephen's aware of the downsides of the surgery and that he's fully committed to changing his eating habits.
The long-term risks of a bypass have much more importance for someone of your age. And those long-term risks of a bypass include things like nutritional deficiency, which means low vitamins, low proteins, etc., that you are going to have to take charge of and make a special effort day by day to have the right food and have the right diet. It's no use me doing the treatment for you if you aren't going to say, well, OK, it's my op, I'm going to look after it now. I think you'll have a perfectly normal rest of your life, but you will have to play by the rules in order to make sure you don't run into any long-term trouble. David, can I ask how you feel about Stephen's current predicament and what you feel about surgery?
I think it's pretty serious. He's got to have something done because I don't see him living much longer if he carries on the way he is.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. For Stephen, there is a difficulty because he might never have really known what healthy eating, appropriate eating is, because his father has struggled with this all his life. And we often find that patients who come for bariatric surgery have children who you can tell are going to run into trouble for exactly the same reasons. They've never learned what food is about, how to use it, how to eat it, when not to eat it, and what foods really aren't our friends.
To celebrate the news that Stephen's operation can go ahead, David decides to treat them both to a Chinese takeaway.
We have one number 14, please, a spring roll, large one.
Last one, yeah?
And 2 sweet and sour chicken balls, please.
2, yeah?
Yes, please. And an egg fried rice.
And egg fried rice, yeah?
Do we get corn crackers with that? Or?
Yeah, we can give you.
Yeah,
from the
okay.
house, yeah.
Okay.
This will be Stephen's last meal before his operation in 12 days' time.
2, yeah?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
From tomorrow, he'll be on a special milk diet devised by the clinic.
You understand what they said to you today about all the changes you got made?
Yeah.
And how little you'll be able to eat at a time? Little and often.
Yeah.
You want to drink it slowly, that'll be the last one you get. Enjoy it.
Coming up, is our relationship with food learned from our parents?
I'm showing them my feelings for them by doing big, nice dinners. And I know I tend to do that with Rebecca. I actually make things worse by giving her more food.
And Stephen encounters a few problems as he tries to get fit for his operation.
How many times has it broken now because of your weight?
6 or 7 times.
I think you'll find it's nearly every day or every other day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Stephen Perrott is just 17 years old and already weighs a shocking 28 stone. He wants gastric bypass surgery in the hope he'll lose over 14 stone of excess fat. It's only 5 days now until Stephen has his operation. For the past week, he's had to stick to Surgeon Shaw Summers' strict diet of 4 pints of milk a day. This will not only help Stephen lose weight for his surgery, but it will also help shrink his liver, making it easier for Shaw to get access to his stomach.
I'm finding milk duct quite hard at times. The hardest bit about being on the diet is seeing other people eating and trying not to eat other stuff yourself.
Yeah, Stephen gets up later in the mornings to avoid seeing me eat breakfast. I think it makes life a little bit easier for him.
I stay in bed most of the time when my dad's eating in the morning. Also, try to avoid being around him when he's eating at all during the day.
Stephen's also determined to get fitter and has started cycling. But because of his weight, his dad David regularly ends up having to repair punctures for him.
I think you'll find it's nearly every day or every other day, isn't it?
Yeah. Every time I get on the bike, due to me weight, I get a puncture. It does annoy me a bit, but I see it as it's my fault in the first place for being so big. And that bikes aren't built over a certain weight.
Rebecca Tedder has just turned 16 and is thrilled that she's finally old enough to have a gastric band fitted round her stomach to help her lose weight. Her mum, Julie, is only too aware of how Rebecca's size affects her.
Rebecca doesn't have hardly any confidence at all. I wasn't shocked when Rebecca said that she wanted to have some sort of weight loss surgery. Particularly over the last 3 years, I've seen her weight go up and up. I've seen her on Slim Fast, Slimming World, Weight Watchers. We've tried Reductia, we've tried pills off the internet, we've tried exercise, Atkins diet, Rosemary Conlett, and I know that if she follows the rules and uses it wisely, she will be able to address her issues with food and the weight and enjoy the rest of her life.
And part of the reason Julie is so sympathetic to her daughter's plight is that Julie herself had a gastric band fitted 4 years ago. And since then, she's lost 19 stone.
At my heaviest, I was 27 stone 11. Becky was having to help me put on my shoes, help me wash properly, and I can see her going down that same route. Firstly, I didn't want her to be a carer for me, so I had the band, and secondly, she's got so much of her life to look forward to. The weight will impede that. Don't you think?
Yeah, and I mean, I wouldn't want my children having to help me.
Exactly.
When I get bigger.
There's probably a lot of people with negative views on my letting my daughter have a gastric band at 16. However, I was 35 when I had my surgery, and my life would have been very different had I had surgery at her age. You know, I always felt a lesser person and that I wasn't worthy. And I don't want her to do that. I want her to be the best person that she can possibly be. And if it's a simple case of weight, deal with it.
But even though Julie loves the results of her massive weight loss, it hasn't been an easy journey. So she's held on to a number of keepsakes to remind her of the struggle she's had, and to stop her falling back into old habits.
In the 4.5 years since losing, well, effectively just under 19 stone, I kept one item of clothing, which are my work trousers. These have actually had 3 of my sisters in. I keep them as a constant reminder that how easy it would be without my band for me to go back into this. There are many plus sides to having lost that amount of weight. There are also some downsides. One of the downsides is that I do tend to, if stressed, be a bit of a food hoarder. Why would I buy 14 packets? It's just down to the security. I don't particularly even like them, to be honest. But again, it all comes down to food is still my security, and food makes me feel better. I have tried other things. I've tried it with the clothes, I've tried it with the shoes, but there is still something about food that gives me that comfort that nothing else does.
Yet despite the fact that she can only eat small meals now, Julie still cooks huge dinners for the family.
I'm doing pizza, paella, stuffed mushrooms and tomatoes. I do have a tendency to cook more than I need to, and to dish up dinners that tend to be on the larger side. That, unfortunately, is just me. I've got 4 teenage boys and just feel that, you know, I'm showing them my feelings for them by doing big, nice dinners. And I know I tend to do that with Rebecca. I actually make things worse by giving her more food.
I think my mum does make 2 big meals and I'm not really sure why you do that.
I never thought I did, really. It's not unintentional. I don't want to feed them all up. I don't want them all to be obese at all. It's just within me. An issue with food. Sorry. My dinner's in a different bowl that I always use because it still looks like a big plate, but it's actually because it's a bowl, it takes a lot less. And I, well, don't feel deprived that I'm having something particularly different. And it's just stuck, really.
Some of my mum's bad habits have, like, rubbed off onto me, but I couldn't really just say, oh, it's all your fault kind of thing, because it's just as much my own fault.
It's the type of people that we are, I think. And Rebecca's got 4 brothers, all of whom are thin. So why is she not? And since she started off so little, I just thought she'd have been the thinnest one out of everybody. But food does something for us that it doesn't do for other people.
At St Richard's Hospital in Chichester, it's the day of Stephen's operation. As nurses run some final tests, David knows his son is struggling to put on a brave face.
I think he's a little bit anxious this morning. He hasn't had much sleep, so he's a little bit tearful. I think he's a little bit worried he might not come running from the anaesthetic. You know, there's a risk with everything, so, which he's very aware of, due to his size.
As surgeon Shaw Summers gets ready to perform Stephen's operation, anaesthetists begin the process of making him unconscious.
Stephen has some advantages due to his age and some disadvantages. The advantages are that he is physiologically fit, in other words, all his organ systems are still working as they should do. The disadvantage is that this operation has to last for life. So with teenagers and young people especially, a lot of the work post-operatively will be making sure that he gets into a system of living that helps the bypass work for life.
As Stephen carries most of his weight on the outside, Shaw is going to perform his operation keyhole. This will result in less trauma to the body wall. It's less intrusive surgery, which will allow Stephen to recover more quickly from the operation.
So normally I'd be making a 4 to 5 inch cut, but here I've made a tiny little one. It's almost like a little stab wound. And then I need to put one of these in, which is what we call a trocar, which enables me to put my instruments into the tummy. It's a bit like that little mole machine in Thunderbirds that drills through the earth.
Shaw will make 6 small incisions in order to create operating ports. The surgical instruments will go through these entrances, enough for Shaw to perform the operation safely.
Okay. You have to be quite careful the way you put these trocars into the abdomen, because clearly I'm stabbing Stephen, and what I have to do is stab him in a very kind and controlled way. First thing I've got to do is to essentially mimic the operation that I do open, and I've got to find Stephen's small intestine and create the bypass.
The omentum is the fatty layer that protects the small intestine. Shaw needs to make a window through it in order to start the gastric bypass. Before he can staple the stomach, Shaw has to bypass about 1 metre of Stephen's small intestine. This will reduce both his appetite and the amount of calories his body can absorb.
The advantage of this is that for Stephen, I've not pulled his intestines outside his body, and so they're nice and warm and moist inside there, which is what they prefer. The disadvantage is that I haven't got my hands controlling this with the feel and sensation at my fingertips. I'm doing everything via a 14-inch instrument. I have to watch the screen so that I don't damage his tissues through putting too much pressure on them. So it is more a feat of concentration compared to open surgery.
With the bypass of the small intestine completed, Shaw now has to reduce the size of Stephen's stomach. But first he needs to move the liver out of the way.
Basically, I've got to thread this through Stephen's tummy wall and use the flat of that hook to lift the liver out of the way so that I can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so again, we make a tiny little stab hole. There comes my liver retractor through there, and I've got to curl it in like a shepherd's crook. And now the real trick is to get this underneath the liver, to flip the liver out of the way. Okay, so there's the liver lifted up and out of the way by the liver hook. This is Stephen's stomach. What I'm going to do is cut across it there and there to make a little pouch at the top. If you've had a couple of pints of beer and a curry, that's quite a volume of stuff inside the stomach, so it can expand to accommodate all of that. But in general, a full stomach's about the size of a honeydew melon, and what I'm going to do is create a pouch which, even when it's full, is probably no bigger than a large egg. Again, in we go with the stapling gun. Thank you. This is Stephen's stomach being stapled. I'm just going to take the stapler off and you'll see it's cut the stomach and stapled it at the same time. There we go. I've just got to do a couple more staple lines just to make the small pouch for him. Need to do one more little bit just to complete the stomach stapling, and then I can do the join, and then we're done. There's the end of Stephen's gullet, and there's a little egg-sized pouch. Having a stomach that size will not give Stephen the capacity to eat too much stodgy food in one go. He just won't be able to fit it in, and it just won't feel right. And if he does try and eat a bar of chocolate, he'll just feel absolutely lousy, which I'm afraid is what you have to do to try and stop people with Stephen's habits from doing themselves in.
Finally, Shaw joins the bypassed small intestine to the new stomach pouch. And after just 2 hours, the operation is complete.
The op's gone absolutely fine. He has a gastric bypass inside. I think for Stephen, that will mean the difference between a life and no life.
Anaesthetist Dr. Rob Hill starts to bring Stephen round.
Stephen, that's it. We'll take this tube out now.
Stephen's dad, David, waits anxiously for news. Shaw fitted David's gastric band 18 months ago and has come up to the ward to let him know how Stephen's operation has gone.
Stephen's fine.
Right.
The operation's gone absolutely straightforward. Hopefully this should be the start of him getting control of his weight. And I think in some respects it actually will help you as well.
That's right.
Get control, because he can't misbehave now.
That's right.
And so there'll be less temptation for you as
Competition
well.
between the two of us, isn't it?
How is your band functioning at the moment?
It's not. It's basically very little restriction at all at the
Do you feel
moment.
it needs tightening up again?
Yeah.
David wants to join Stephen in his new eating regime. So Shaw offers to tighten David's gastric band, making it harder for him to overeat.
Right, David, you've got your band, which is sitting about there, and you've got the inflation port, which is sitting about there. And what I've got to do is put a needle into the port and then inject some salty water, which will then go down the tube into the band and tighten the band that's around your stomach.
David now has to drink a cup of water to make sure the band isn't too tight.
Is that as tight as you feel you need it, or do you want it a bit looser?
No, I can feel some resistance to it, but it's not too much.
Not too much. So I'm now going to take the needle out, and that will set you going again. And that's a good point for you both to really start to work together now.
Coming up, will the gastric bypass help Stephen lose the weight that is threatening his life? At just 17 years old and weighing 28 stone, Stephen Perrott was morbidly obese. His addiction to food was so severe he put on a massive 16 stone in 5 years. Diets had failed, and unable to exercise because of his weight, Stephen had gastric bypass surgery to help him shed over 14 stone of excess fat. This was Stephen 9 months ago. And this is him now, already an astonishing 10 stone lighter. It's early morning, and instead of lying in bed until late like he used to, Stephen's out jogging.
Losing 10 stone is the best thing that's happened to me. It's made me a lot more confident. I'm a lot more energetic and able to do a lot more. I'd hate to go back to how I was before, so...
Stephen no longer devours a large, full English breakfast each morning, but instead is happy with a small tomato omelette.
I'm not actually struggling so much with food as I thought I would. When I look back to what I used to eat, it does surprise me a bit that I was able to eat that compared to what I can actually eat now in a meal, yeah.
What are you having for breakfast this morning then?
Omelette.
His dad, David, is delighted with the change he's seen in his son.
Stephen, it used to be really terrible. He was constantly eating all the time. Nice to see him with his mouth empty sometimes. A shopping bill of over £100 a week is now gone down to like £40 a week.
It's been a great change in him. He tends to run around a lot more, generally a lot more active.
David had a gastric band fitted 2 years ago and managed to lose 4 stone. On the day of Stephen's operation, David asked Shaw Summers to tighten his band to restrict his eating even further. Since then, he's lost another 2 stone.
I'm just over 23 stone now. My ideal weight is around about 16, I believe, if you're talking to Shaw. And Stephen's is even less, so... I'm now beginning to wonder whether I should have had the gastric bypass rather than the band myself, but then I had the consideration of looking after him and being a single parent at the time. So it was the right decision at that time, so we'll be a couple of matchsticks if we both reach our goal weight.
Stephen's studying carpentry and joinery at college and is now in his final year. Classmates have noticed a huge change in him, particularly in his eating habits.
Used to have like 2 breakfasts, like one in the morning, like when we started college, and one at break time. Mad. Yeah, lots of sweets. He must have spent a good, I don't know, £10, £15 a day on just food and drink. When he come back from the ZOP, he had like a chocolate bar, ate like not even half of it, he just couldn't eat it. He was full, but it's mad. Considering it's like what he used to eat, it was like, what?
The biggest change I've noticed in him is his confidence and his the way he interacts. He's more keen to get in a classroom to give his point of view, and the amount of work he's getting through is tenfold now compared to what it was before.
So just unscrew and take it off. Steve's changed a lot since the ZOP. He's got a lot skinnier, as you can first tell. He seems a lot better in himself. He's always smiling now as well. He's a good lad. He like mixes in with us and stuff like that, so it's really good, to be fair.
A lot more than I used to.
Yeah.
I'm a lot happier due to the weight loss, yeah.
He's beautiful now as well. He's my friend. Pick me up, Stevie.
Having the operation, I think it's the best thing I've done. I'm proud of myself for losing the weight.
Meanwhile, in Croydon, 16-year-old Rebecca Tedder and her family are still saving up the £7,000 needed for her gastric band surgery.
I'm not getting Rebecca's surgery done on the NHS. Yes, I suppose, again, I could get it done cheaper by going to Belgium. My concerns about getting it done in Belgium are that I would prefer to use a surgeon that I know. You know, this is my only daughter. I don't want anything to go wrong. In terms of the expense, no, I've got 5 children, 2 boys at uni. I haven't got £7,000 just sitting around. But she will pay it back. In washing up, ironing and cleaning.
Well, washing up ain't that bad. Ironing's a bit boring though.
But her mum, Julie, has no doubt it's the right decision and that without surgery, the future looks bleak for her daughter.
If Rebecca doesn't have some sort of weight loss surgery now, I would be almost 99.9% certain that she would be well within the 20 stone mark. I think she will be doing a job that she's not happy with because she feels it's the best that she can achieve. I feel that relationships in her life will be because she feels not worthy and will settle for, you know, the first man who pays her some attention, really. If it's a simple case of just using this piece of titanium and rubber, I'll happily do that. If I'm wrong, and you prove me wrong, fine.